My fiance's mother handed me a family tradition dress 3 days before the wedding. It wasn't a dress. I have the box sitting in my closet right now, still taped shut. 3 months later, I haven't been able to open it again. I'm not sure I ever will. Hi, I'm Claire. 3 days before my wedding to Daniel, his mother Judith showed up at my apartment unannounced with a large white box tied in ribbon, telling me it was a family tradition. Every bride who married into their family wore a piece of the original wedding dress worked into her own gown, and she had had her seamstress make the adjustment without needing to see mine first, because apparently it was designed to be flexible enough to attach to anything. I want to be clear that up to this point, Judith and I had a fine relationship. Not close, but fine. A little formal, a little distant, but she had never given me a real reason to be suspicious of her. So when she handed me that box with tears in her eyes, talking about honoring the women who came before me, I actually felt touched. I opened it right there in my kitchen, expecting lace, maybe a veil panel, something sentimental. Instead, I found a folded piece of ivory fabric with a name embroidered into the inside seam in small, careful stitching. Not Judith's name, not a grandmother's name, a name I didn't recognize at all. Rosalind. I asked Judith calmly who Rosalind was. Judith's whole demeanor shifted, just for a second. So fast I almost convinced myself I had imagined it, before she smiled and said, "Oh, that's just a seamstress take. Dear, just ignore it." Anne reached to take the fabric back from me like she suddenly regretted handing it over. I should have let her take it. I didn't. Something about the way her hand moved made me hold a little tighter, and when I did, I noticed something else stitched along the hem in the same careful thread. A date. 26 years earlier, 2 years before Daniel was born. I didn't even say anything to Judith. I thanked her, told her I would have a seamstress look at incorporating it, and the second she left my apartment, I called Daniel and told him I needed to see him immediately. Daniel didn't know who Rosalind was either. But Daniel, to his credit, is a kind of person who can't leave a thread hanging, so instead of letting it go, he called his aunt, Judith's younger sister Pam, who has never been shy about oversharing after a glass of wine. Pam did not disappoint. 26 years ago, before Judith married Daniel's father, there was a wedding that never happened. Judith's older brother, Daniel's uncle, a man who died when Daniel was too young to remember him, had been engaged to a woman named Rosalind. 3 weeks before their wedding, Rosalind broke off the engagement and left him for another man. According to Pam, the family never spoke her name again, not once in 26 years. Daniel had genuinely never heard it before that phone call. What Pam told us next is the part that still makes my stomach drop. The fabric I was holding wasn't from Judith's dress, or Judith's mother's dress, or any family tradition at all. It was a scrap salvage from Rosalind's wedding dress, the dress she never wore, that Judith's brother, in his grief, apparently never let anyone throw away. When he died, sometime in his 40s, unmarried, it passed to Judith, who kept it. Pam didn't know why. She just knew Judith had kept a piece of a dead man's ex-fiance's unworn wedding dress in a box for over 2 decades. And 3 days before my wedding, she handed it to me and asked me to sew it into my own. I don't fully know how to explain what that felt like to learn. It wasn't just strange, it was something closer to violating. I wasn't being given a tradition. I was being handed a piece of someone else's heartbreak, raped in a lie about family and legacy, and asked to wear it against my skin on the one day that was supposed to be entirely mine. Daniel confronted his mom that same night. I wasn't there for it. He asked me not to be, and honestly, I didn't want to be there either. but he told me afterward that Judith cried almost immediately before he had even finished the first sentence. Like she had been waiting years for someone to finally ask. Her explanation, as Daniel relayed it, was that she had never processed her brother's death properly. That the dress had stayed in her closet for over 2 decades are this unbearable, unresolved thing, a symbol of a woman who broke her brother's heart so badly that he never recovered from it, and somewhere in the last few months of wedding planning, some deeply unwell part of her had decided that giving it to me, sewing it into my wedding dress, that would actually happen, was a way of finally closing the story, and doing what Rosalind had done by proxy through me. She never once considered how insane that would sound to me, or maybe she did, which is why she lied about what it was. I did not sew it into my dress. I want to be extremely clear about that for anyone wondering. I got married 3 days later in the dress I had already chosen, with 0 pieces of anyone else's unresolved grief stitched into it. Judith and I still haven't fully repaired things. She apologized, and I believe the apology was real. But I also haven't forgotten the version of her that stood in my kitchen with tears in her eyes and lied straight to my face about a dead woman's name. Daniel had been remarkably steady through all of it, supportive of me but also clearly grieving a version of his mother he thought he understood. The box is still in my closet. I don't know why I have kept it. Maybe because throwing it away feels like it should be someone else's decision to make, not mine. I was never actually part of this story. I just got handed the ending of somebody else's. Sometimes I think about Rosalind, a woman I'll never meet, who broke off an engagement for reasons I'll never know, who had no idea that 26 years later, her unworn dress would end up in stranger's kitchen, and that stranger would spend her own wedding week untangling a grief that was never hers to inherit. I hope wherever she is, she got to wear a dress that was actually meant for her.